Megan, do you ever wonder what your purpose is? And the reason why I'm asking you this is because as I've been redundant, I've had a lot of free time to really sit and think about what my purpose in this world actually is. And I think I've been feeling a lot of a lack of purpose because when I haven't been working, I haven't really been feeling very useful. And every day
hmm
has just been feeling like a groundhog day where I'm waking up, applying for jobs, going to the gym, scrolling social media, maybe reading a book, cooking, cleaning, going to sleep, redoing it again. And this lack of purpose is something that I've been thinking about a lot. And I thought it could be a great question to pose to you.
Yeah, it's really funny that you say that. Something that has been on my mind a lot is when I'm getting incredibly stressed or doing so many things, I always think about, oh, well, we're gonna die anyways. And I know that sounds so grim, but it kind of makes me think about, well, why shouldn't I be doing the things that I love or taking the risks or booking the trip or saying how I feel? Because
Mm,
something that I always think about is you have this bank of money or this to-do list of things you want to do, and then all of a sudden it just becomes a list and it just becomes money, and the problem
mm.
becomes smaller and smaller and smaller. And so, yeah, I think about purpose in that kind of context where it's like, why are we getting so bogged down in the little things and we should be doing that bigger thinking and
Yeah, sometimes I will sit and lay at night and I always think about the morbid reality that we are going to die. And sometimes
mm,
it really stresses me out and I get into this existential crisis mode where it's almost like a panic attack, thinking like, like I don't want to, but I'm thinking about it and it just free falls into this pit of, darkness, stress, etc.
mm.
And as I've been home, I can't help but think what my purpose is because I feel like naturally humans are made to work and feel like they're working for a greater purpose. And you always
Mm,
hear parents say that their children become their purpose. And for a lot of young people, it becomes their career. So not having children, not having a career at the moment, it's like, oh, I feel really lost in this void.
yeah. I wonder what, because we throw the term around a lot. What is your purpose? Are you living your purpose? But what even does that mean to someone who doesn't think like that or hasn't come across that term? For me, it's all about when you like zoom out from your life, you can feel the feelings of passion, happiness. You aren't living every day or every week for the weekend if you're doing a 9 to 5. It's not
Mm,
about ticking off things on a to-do list. It feels really intuitive and how you live. And I don't know, that's just my perspective on it. But I guess, yeah, to you, it's like, what do you mean when you say, what is your purpose?
mm. Well, I found a video on social media which kind of resonated with me a little bit. It was from this Instagram person called Non-Practicing Genius, and he does a
Mm,
lot about, just positive social media. I'm sure maybe there's people that have come across his content, but yeah, shameless plug, Non-Practicing Genius. And he was talking about a while ago, do you even need a purpose in your life? And he was talking about sometimes we get so caught up
mm,
in the bigger details about feeling like you need to reach a certain point that you are trying to meet yourself, but no one has put that on you. So, an
yeah.
example could be you're trying to reach the highest point in your career, but what does that look like? Only you determine it. But for someone else who might be chasing another bit of purpose, they determine what that looks like for them. So, perhaps you're trying to chase something that is fabricated and created by yourself instead of societal context. And when I first came across that video, I was employed and I didn't feel like I needed a sense of purpose because I felt like I had one. So coming back to that video again and realizing that maybe a sense of purpose comes from within instead of an external factors is just something that I've been sitting with and thinking about this week. So, yeah, I guess I
Mm.
just wanted to start off the podcast by asking you that question, get a little bit deep and just see what your thoughts are.
Yeah, I mean, something that I really loved that you just said was chasing and going after something. And something that I've tried to embed in my life is we're always on chasing the next thing that's new. It's always very much go, go, go. Even when you think about your day or your weekend, it's like, all right, I have 2 days off. How do I accomplish every single thing that I need to do? And so then when you do a task, it's all about getting it done rather than sitting in it and actually doing it to the best of its ability, perhaps. And look, things like dishes and all of that, obviously, I don't mean it when it comes to that stuff, but even just how do we be more intentional with what we do and how do you be content with what you're in rather than wanting to just continually triggering your fight or flight and having to go on and move on to the next thing. And we see it a lot when it comes to kind of maybe jobs or yeah, friendships and things like that. But something that I really am trying to practice is whatever I do in my life, being more intentional, slowing down, having my mind be so present and focused on the task at hand rather than running 10,000 miles an hour on, okay, now while I'm doing this, then it's this, 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 this.
Mm. Slowing down's key in this fast-paced society we live in, isn't it? Is that
Yeah.
something that you maybe learnt from your therapy sessions? Because I know a lot of meditation techniques aim to tackle that aspect of your life, focusing on
Mm,
your breath, being in that moment and teaching yourself to slow down and not focus
mm,
on all the external noise that's going on and really bring it back to who you are within. So,
mm.
yeah,
Yeah,
I don't know, just yeah, really curious to hear.
I think it's probably not, it wasn't laid out exactly like that, but it's probably a byproduct of it. The whole movement on meditation and mindfulness and why that was kind of introduced to me through therapy was definitely just more about clearing your mind and being able to just sit in bare like no thoughts at all and just being able to be content
Mm,
with that because I guess the society that we live in where and Gen Z's just growing up on digital just means that we constantly have to feel distracted or our minds have to be constantly busy. And a big trend that I've actually seen online is people just sitting and recording themselves for a whole hour doing absolutely nothing and seeing if they can do
mm,
it. And what's scary about that is that we genuinely have to film ourselves to be accountable and do it because otherwise we can't. Otherwise, we feel like we
mm,
need to lie in bed and scroll. And I completely resonate with that because there's a lot of times where even I go, you know what, I'm going on a walk. I'm just gonna not take headphones. I'm gonna be present. Or I've got all these errands to run. I'm just gonna like drive without the music on and just try and be here in the moment
mm.
because you just forget that there's all this external stuff happening outside of you. And yeah, it's really interesting when you go through a phase of feeling like you're distracted all day and then you have
Mm.
that one blank moment and you go, "Oh my God, like where was I all day?"
Yeah, I think about that a lot too. So many times I've gone for a walk, especially now being made redundant. I'm doing the same walk most days, and I tried to snap myself out of it this week because I felt like the walk was becoming really automated, and I was just in my own thoughts and not being present because I'd done that path so many times over and over and over again, and I could probably just do it with my eyes closed. So when
Mm,
you go on these walks, how are you feeling? Because for me, yeah, I'm more mindful of it now that I have gone into autopilot mode and, sometimes I have left my phone at home or left my
mhm,
headphones out and just really try to focus on where I am in that moment and identifying what I can see and what I
mm.
can hear.
Mhm. I think what's unfortunate is the society that we live in. Like, I love that you can leave your phone at home, but for me as a female, I find it really difficult to be able to leave the house without that kind of security. So I would
Yeah, but isn't
love
that
to
that's
be,
such a problem in it itself, isn't it? Like you shouldn't
yeah.
have to feel like you can't go for a walk without your device. Like, that's
100%.
yeah,
A
that's
hundred
so
percent.
dangerous.
Because that would be so great if I could do that. Now, when I go out with my partner on a walk, or even if we do errands for a day, sometimes when I feel as though I've been on my phone so much, I actually just give it to him and go, I know we need this because I'm going to need to pay for things or I'm going to need it for something. So you hold on to it, but we need to take it. So it
Mm,
it's hard because I really think about even just wanting to do something on my laptop or getting a bit of work done or errands done on my laptop. And just even then, feeling so uncomfortable in the silence. Like it genuinely makes me feel uneasy. And I think that's such a big problem that I can't even sit there. I have to just put some sort of show on. And we see all these things on comfort shows where people just have shows on in the background and they've probably watched the seasons like many, many times. I'm thinking like Friends, Seinfeld, Big Bang
mhm.
Theory, the likes of all those old and kind of shows. It's just funny how we
Yeah.
can't sit in that anymore. We have to feel like there's something constantly going on and there's volume filling the space.
Mm. I wonder if a lot of it has to do with putting something off, you know? I think our generation are so connected constantly all the time. We're getting these
Mm,
dopamine hits from our phone. We're in such a fast-paced environment. Technology is rapidly evolving around us. And I wonder if we've almost lost touch of our emotions and we do this as a way to escape because
mm,
maybe we've had something that we need to deal with and we're just putting it off, and maybe it could be a subconscious or unconscious coping mechanism, but I'm wondering if that's got something to do with it. And I guess that we can touch on your experience maybe from your therapy sessions. Maybe you've got a bit of insight into that, but I would just love the opportunity to talk to a therapist or a psychologist about what that reason could be.
yeah, I actually genuinely think that it's all come down to being so connected or feeling like we're connected online through our device, but then when it comes to real life, we're so disconnected from a sense of reality. I
Mm,
really truly think that how much digital has taken over and how much we can be so online and information spreads so quickly. Like you see how quick trends or a celebrity posts something and all of a sudden every single piece of content online is now just about this one piece of information and it's just so all consuming. So I actually just think that it's really up to the individual and whether they are able to basically put their phone down and disconnect themselves. And I actually find this, and I found this really difficult when I was living by myself because you're really sitting there and majority of the time you are alone anyways because yes you go out and see people or
mm,
you might go into the office and work or you might run errands and there's people around you, but it's always those times when it comes to nighttime and you're all alone. It feels really, really isolating, and some people thrive in that, don't get me wrong, but it feels quite isolating that you almost go online and scroll to feel like there's someone else around.
mm. Yeah. I almost wonder if we're yet to see the effects of overstimulation on the brain. Because if you think back to, when our parents were growing up in the, 70s, 80s, 90s, being bored was a completely normal thing, and your
Mm,
brain was able to be bored and sit in it. And, maybe that's an opportunity for you to reflect and, go through how your emotions are potentially feeling at that time, or, even just sit in silence and be comfortable with it. But
mm,
now, speaking from my experience and touching on literally what you just said, when you feel alone, you feel like you need to have something in the background or something to scroll because you don't want to be comfortable in that silence, because you're not comfortable in that silence, and you need that thing to just make you feel like there's someone near you or something near you to keep you occupied.
mm. I mean, I think we're already seeing. a lot of stats come out about this overstimulation because I mean we're both in social media and marketing, and the number one thing that we know when it comes to doing creatives online and making content is that it's always about the first 3 seconds. And I actually think that time is shortening and shortening. I remember when
Mm,
I first got into marketing 5+ years ago, it was 7 seconds, and then it went into five, and now it's
mm,
gone to three. But now it feels like it's literally the first second, even the first like 1/10 of a second of what you do, what you look like, the first screen, what's the kind of action or motion that keeps us stimulated and whether we'll continue to watch the video or scroll on. And even when you are watching videos and you see it in a lot of people, and I do it myself, I'm probably not even actively watching it some half the time. Sometimes I scroll past a video after I've watched it and I go, what was that even about? Why did that even stop me? What was I even looking at? And one of the
mm,
things that we've learned, especially because we're putting content out, is how when you're saying something, perhaps you need to be doing something else to distract the person. So now there's
mm,
even more complexity in videos where you can't just say something and it resonates. You actually have to distract the viewer to watch on as well. And that's like so scary to
mm,
me that we're just so overstimulated by things. And we'll probably see the effects of this when it comes to emotions and how we're able to emote and deal with our emotions. And I think, I mean, we already probably see it, but I think it's really scary territory we're going down. And I don't know what the fix of it is because you hear a lot of sleep scientists and many podcasts talk about before you go to sleep, sleep hygiene is all about putting your phone in another room.
mm,
I think that's so easier said than done. No one's doing that, let's be quite
mm.
honest.
Yeah, well, I used to do that actually. So when I had my job, one of the things we would do in our weekly meetings was do like a wellness segment at the end of our meeting. And the idea was
Mm,
whoever was hosting that meeting was to come with an idea that we could do to promote wellness. And one day someone suggested that don't start your morning with your phone and don't end your day by your phone. So a suggestion was put forward that at the end of the day, move your phone out of your room into a different room and charge it there. So I was
mhm,
doing that because for my alarm, I was using my smartwatch, so I
mhm,
could. And I felt great for a while. I did it for about a month. I was waking up by my alarm. I was, going into the kitchen. I was making myself breakfast and being present for the first, maybe 20 minutes to 30 minutes of my morning. And it was really good. It was a really nice way to start the day because the science behind it is if you start your day and you're seeing negative news or you're maybe getting too many notifications, it can actually overwhelm you and it puts you in a
mm,
negative mindset for the whole day. So you've just
mm,
started, but you're already in a negative mindset. So
mm,
I found when I was doing this that I was a lot more present throughout the day. And then as the day continued, I actually didn't need to go on my phone as much. It's almost like this reset where because I didn't wake up with it, I felt like I didn't need it as much.
mm,
But unfortunately, like most things with technology, I couldn't stick with it. And I ended up moving my phone back to the room because I decided I liked that alarm better. And
mm.
yeah, as I talk about and share this story, I think, I should do that again. And maybe I will, but it's an interesting insight.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely inspired me to do it, although I probably need to go buy something else that can help me wake up because, yeah, my phone again is my alarm clock. One
Yeah.
thing that I was thinking about when you were speaking was how we both live interstate, and something for me that helps and why I really use my phone is a lot of my friends aren't in the same city as I am, especially because we've recently moved. And so having your phone, and now with how technology is, everyone's got it in their pocket. I'm able to call people quite often and frequently, and even my parents and family and whoever it is. So I think one of the things that I've turned to as a big distraction too And probably as an effective, just wanting to stay in the loop and connected with people, especially when you've moved and perhaps you haven't built up a complete friend circle here, is honestly like calling people and catching up, and they, end up being quite lengthy phone calls at a time. But for me, that's kind of another reason why I feel like I'm constantly on my phone, and I probably leverage it to do housework or errands in the background. So then I'm kind of like pushing myself or motivating myself to like do dishes while talking because it's distracting me.
Yeah, yeah. Getting that sort of stimulation elsewhere while you're doing something else. It's
Mm,
Isn't it so interesting that like your brain is so complex? Like not only can you focus on multiple things at once, but you also can't focus on multiple things at once. Like that's just so fascinating to me how
mm,
it can just do so many amazing things, but not at the same time.
mm. I think
Mm,
it's really important though to make sure that we're aware of when it's happening, because there'll be instances, for example, just on the top of my head, even being at work and sitting in long meetings where, you don't have your phone on you, you don't have your laptop, you're expected to completely listen as you should, and the information's really valuable. But if we're training and conditioning ourselves to not even be able to be present for the first 3 seconds or be interested by the first 3 seconds, how are we expected to sit through these things that are so long? Like, I think it is such an art and a skill to be able to be engaged for that long. And so
mm.
I would say, as soon as you can feel yourself going into long meetings or conversations and dropping off, then there's the issue in itself.
Yeah. But then I feel like that's a cop out at the same time because long form mediums like podcasts are booming at the moment. You know, the movie
Mm,
industry is still performing quite well. Although on the movie industry, a lot of the scripts are changing because they know people are on their phones. So the way that the characters are narrating and dialogue is changing where they're actually saying a lot of things out loud now. So I guess yeah, that's twofold. But
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
to your point, I feel like that's such a little bit of a cop out because your brain is, one of the most important muscles, and if you don't exercise it, it does start to weaken and degrade a little bit. So,
Your point on the movies, I think although we watch movies, podcasts, I think I can see where it is, because if you're doing something, it feels like you're talking with friends, especially if you love the people who speak and, their voices are quite casual. Or, when you're doing errands, I have so many people like, "Oh, I love throwing a podcast on a road drive, because a car ride, sorry, because it's not like you're listening to a serious news report, or sometimes you just don't feel like music, but it's that nice in between. With movies, unless you're going to a theater, what we're seeing is that it's not their first form of media they're consuming. People have secondary media there, so
mm,
whether that's their phone, and something that I've just found out recently is actually we're seeing it being tertiary media now. So not just the TV, but then you might have your laptop too, and then you might also have your phone, which is scary to think that we need three devices to keep us entertained.
wait, where did you see this? So
I
first of
saw
all, what
this.
is tertiary media? I actually don't know what that is.
So it basically means it's like
The
it's the third part. So it'd be like your
right.
your first your first hand consumption would be the screen or the TV.
Hmm.
Your secondary media would be your phone, and then tertiary or third would be your laptop. So you're using all three at the same time, or an iPad
Wow,
even.
that's fried. That is
Yeah,
actually fried.
yeah. So it's like, how do you engage with someone uh, who you don't know at what point they're looking at what screen, and how much are they actually getting in? I mean, if you need three types of devices to keep you entertained, what the hell is going on?
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly going back to what I mentioned earlier, right? When are we going to see the effects of overstimulation on the brain and what that actually looks like?
Mm,
I've been observing, just when I'm at the shops or sitting in a park or going for a walk, what other people are doing. And I've noticed
Mm,
so many people, let's just say, they go to the shops and they're waiting for something to happen. They might talk to the person at the reception or the counter, and then they're asked to wait. As soon as they sit down, they just immediately pop their phone out and they're just scrolling again. And no
yeah,
one can just sit with their thoughts for more than 30 seconds. They have to be occupied
yeah,
again. I'm a culprit of this, you're a culprit of this, we're all a culprit of this, but it just makes me wonder, when did we become so reliant on this technology? Because, our parents, going back to that, they never had this. So I think about
mm,
when I was growing up, sitting at the morning breakfast table with my parents. They obviously didn't have a phone, so they weren't scrolling. Modern day parents,
yeah,
they're going to be on their phone scrolling. And what does that give the impression to your child? And how does that affect
yeah.
them as they grow up and learn to communicate with other kids?
Yeah. And what we're seeing as well is that people aren't having dinner or meals around the table. They're doing it in front of a screen. And when it comes
Mm,
to parenting, you hear everything about, oh, they've got X amount of screen time today. We're limiting their screen time. You know, it's a issue when you literally have to enforce something and call it screen time rather than when kids, I guess, or our parents' generation growing up, it was like, oh yeah, you'd watch TV, but it wasn't too much of a concern because you knew
mm,
80% of their day would be outside. So you don't have to create rules or parameters around you utilizing a screen. And that's where it's
mm.
now starting to become concerning.
Yeah, and not only that, I often think about how children only know what's in their bubble. So
Mm,
unless it's introduced to them, they have no idea it exists. So when you hear about the term and see it in practice, the iPad kid, that child is only given the iPad because the parents gave that kid an iPad. That kid themselves has no idea what an iPad is. So
mm,
unless you introduce it to them, they're not going to need it. So I've heard so many parents on podcasts and some that I know in real life say, we can't go out without them having their iPad. But that's because they introduced it to the kid. So the kid would be
yeah.
perfectly fine if you gave them like a couple toys or a coloring in book or something else because we did it perfectly fine.
Mm. Yeah, and I mean, the only thing that I would say to add to that, to maybe counter it, is that unfortunately kids go to school and interact with other kids who perhaps have parents that allow them to be on iPads and have phones and watch TVs more. So I guess the only way that it's introduced outside of the parents doing it is through their environment and how other people use it, right? So it would be so difficult because you don't want to be the parent that doesn't let your kid do something and then feel excluded or left out.
Yeah, sure. And of course, I'm obviously not a parent, so I don't know what it would be like. But you make a fair counter argument there. What would it be like when everyone else is doing it and your kid maybe comes home and says such and such is doing this, why can't I? I don't know.
Yeah.
It's an
Yeah.
interesting question. And maybe one day we'll get to the point where we can have, a child psychologist on to talk about this in more detail.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, it goes not just it's not things we see with just children. I mean, I don't know about you, but if I'm hanging out with friends and then all of a sudden everyone's on their phone, I go, "Oh, well, I guess I need to be on my phone. Otherwise, you're just sitting there and blankly waiting and it's kind of you're not trying to be passive aggressive about it, but
Hmm.
you don't want to go on your phone, but you're waiting for everyone to get off their phone. So the best thing is like
Yeah.
if you can't beat them, join them.
Yeah. When I'm with a group of people or doing something, I have tried to be a lot more present about it. So, perfect example, I'll
Mm,
share a story of something that happened this week. I went for a dentist appointment, and when I was in the receptionist room, I was just sitting down and I made a conscious effort to not go on my phone. They had a TV up in the reception waiting area, and I was like, okay, I can watch this if I need. But went up to the counter, said I was here for my catch up appointment at that time, sat down, and it was only me in the waiting room. So the receptionist, did their thing and then said to me, what's been happening? I was like, okay, like this is an opportunity to actually, engage in a conversation. So I just said, I was honest, a lot but nothing at the same time was my
hmm
response. And they said, oh, like, what do you mean? Like a lot but not nothing at the same time. So I then decided to open up a little bit and share what's been happening with the voluntary administration. And I was just saying, this happened with my previous job, and I've been home and I've been applying for jobs and blah, blah, blah. Gave them a high level breakdown. And their response to me was, a lot of people come in here and talk to me and say that they're going through challenges or they're complaining about something that's happened in their life. But you are coming in here, and even though you've had a very valid reason to feel challenged and feel like the world's against you and complain, I was approaching the conversation with such a positive mindset that he said to me, you're going to be better off for this situation and you're going to learn from it. Like, I can see
Mm,
that there's something
that's
in
nice.
you that's just going to, propel you to the next level where you want to be. And I just said, like, thank you. Like, that was a really nice human moment to share with someone. And
Mhm.
perhaps it was something for me to get something off of my chest. But, it just goes to show, if you're willing to put in the effort and be in the moment, you can have a really nice human conversation with somebody. And it
Yeah,
goes,
absolutely.
below the surface level of just, I'm good, thanks, how are you? And it just sort of stops there. So,
Mhm.
yeah, it was kind of nice, and nice to sort of share on this podcast as well about the different types of connections that you can actually have.
Yeah, I mean, I think you could communicate and connect with so many people if we just all looked up from our phones. And equally, if you ever feel as though you try to do that and the person on the other end doesn't reciprocate, maybe it's because they're not used to connecting and speaking, but more so just on their phone the whole time too. So I'd say don't hold it against them. But I mean, if we all try and make a conceited effort together, who knows what could happen.
Yeah, well, that's exactly right. And it's a good way to form new friendships and connections, because it all got to starts from something. And we've
Mm,
mentioned this in previous podcast episodes, everybody's looking for that connection because we're going through the loneliness epidemic. And we touched
yeah.
on it then, and we can touch on it briefly now. Why are we so connected but feeling so alone? And these little bits of, human connection moments throughout your day can add so much value. And I don't think it needs to be something where it's too serious, but it's just being present in the moment and just engaging with what's in front of you and seeing if the energy is there.
Yeah, I mean, I just from this conversation we're having now, I was reflecting on when was the last time I ever spoke to someone who was a stranger and just had like a raw, organic, new conversation. And it was so difficult for me to think of something. The only
Mm.
time that I can think of is I was holding a book, the Diary of a CEO's new book, because I've started to read it. And I was
Oh,
leaving
okay.
work and yeah, going into the lift, and just some random guy was like, "Oh, how's that book? I've been meaning to read it." And I opened up and, normally you could be like, yeah, good. But I was like, you know what?
Yeah.
Let me give him the truth. It's not a bad book. I
Yeah.
really enjoy it, but I really like went into it all, and he was like, yeah, I really want to listen to it or watch it, read it. Oh my God. I want to read it.
Read it. Read
Um
it.
and that he listens to him all the time and all of that. And it was just a really nice interaction. And you forget how I mean, I'm what they call like an introverted extrovert, where
Yeah, what's
sometimes
the
I
actual word
forget.
for that? I can't remember what the actual word for it
I
is.
don't know. I don't know. But I can be an extrovert, but I really need to recharge. But I do get a lot of my energy from people and being around people and conversations like that. So just having that kind of conversation just made me feel, I don't know, so alive again. I was like, oh my God, when was the last time I did this? Normally I just talk to people and it's like, hey, how are you? Yeah, I'm so busy. And it's just so
Yeah.
boring.
Yeah, it is so boring. But that's where you sort of have to go with the energy level. And I think how you approach it is really key. So there are two ways to have that conversation and from it form a conversational thread. If you were to ask someone, hey, how are you? They're more than likely just going to respond with good. Most
Mm,
people just autopilot that. But if you frame it in a different way, so the receptionist said to me, what's been happening? Or another way is, what's been keeping you busy lately? That gives them an option to actually not go into autopilot, because the question wasn't, how are you? So they actually got to think about it. And then from there, they think about something that they want to share. And that can be
Mm,
anything. So you open it up. And
mm,
that's why I decided
yeah.
to go like, all right, this has been happening to me. I'll tell you. You asked, I'll tell you.
Yeah, I love that. I think the key thing there is we go into autopilot. So maybe also when you're asking the question, like you said, reframe it differently. But then when you answer, think about how you can answer differently as well. So I think it actually was Mel Robbins who has a really successful podcast. I was watching a clip
Yeah, she's
perhaps, or
good.
maybe she's so good. And she had someone on, I think, and they were talking about instead of saying good, how I like, I'm good, yeah, I did this, talk about what you have coming up instead and talk about what's on the horizon. Not saying, oh, I've been so busy, but it's like, oh, I'm so excited. I'm going to be going to this or this is coming up. And that creates conversation.
Sometimes it can be really difficult though, because you don't know if the other person even cares. And obviously you got to match it
Yeah.
depending on the situation. And that's
Yeah.
where you got to have your little bit of judgment. Like, for example, having that conversation in a, let's just say, a 100-person networking event is going to look really different to a group setting where maybe you're at like a small family friend function, or you know, what else is
Mm,
another example, like a uni social event, something along those lines. So
mm,
identifying what the conversation is, how you want to approach it, and if the energy matches, that's how you determine your response. Because yeah, getting out of that
yeah.
autopilot is so important.
Yeah. I mean, I think this is also though where a lot of us have become too sensitive. And this isn't gender based. I think it's
Oh, here
everyone.
we go. Here we go. Yeah, what do you
And
mean?
because we do it so we attempt to do it, right? We try and talk to someone and perhaps they don't reciprocate how we want and we just go, no, I'm never doing it again. Like I've had a bad experience one time, they hate me or and we just are so
Mm.
dramatic about it. And we just have to remember that it's just one person and we can't let one person dictate how we continue to go on. I mean, that for me isn't a fair effort or attempt because we just have to realize that some people have different deliveries. Not everyone's going to be the same. And unfortunately, it is the way the world works. And the best thing you can do is know that you're probably never going to see them again or talk to them again. No skin off your back and just move on and try again. I would hate that you try like you're just going to go into situations sometimes and it's not going to be reciprocated well or the person might not respond how you would like, and I feel it all the time in not just work but just life in general when you're interacting with anyone you come, like a shopkeeper or the girl who does my nails. Like sometimes people are having days as well, and just the way that they deliver something probably isn't the way that they maybe intend. And if it is, we'll just don't talk to them ever again. But we just get so sensitive about it. I don't know. I just feel like people are like, nah, they're so rude. They said it like this. And it's like they probably, I don't know, did they? And if they did, like, who cares? Just. And I need to take that advice too. Don't get me wrong. I've been trying to work on it too because I think we're conditioned that if you say it, it's so, like, even online, we see all these comments on videos and it's like, she clearly meant it like this. Actually, I hope you can't see the comments I make on No Censorship podcast, but there was this girl like
No, I
explaining
can.
this. Can you? Well,
Yes, I saw this. I
did
saw
you
this
see
because
that?
the algorithm, every time I go onto the TikTok page now, it's like the most like female like content. And I'm
So,
like, this has
I'm
nothing to do with the pages I'm following now.
okay, but this is what happened, right? I got trapped by this part 3 story time video of this girl who went to Vietnam to get her clothes done or made, which is such a trend. And I read the comments and everyone was like, wow, this is so rude. Like, I don't know, it was just crazy. And she was just telling her experience. And I just clearly was on one and I popped off. And I was just like, what is wrong with everyone? Why have we become so sensitive? I also say I got a lot of likes for that comment. And I
Yes.
basically just reiterated what she was trying to say and just basically shut everyone up because I was like, everyone here is so sensitive. And they're like, oh, like, I don't want to go on a rant about it because it's like
Yeah, no, I
infuriating me
saw it.
again.
So yeah, I went on the TikTok page because I was just checking how our posts were performing. Not great like always. And I saw that we had so many likes on this one comment, and I didn't know what it was because I didn't post the comment. So I was looking at the actual video, and I was like, "Why are you commenting on these sorts of things?" But
Because
whatever. Pop off.
I was annoyed. This is it was this is my point about things. I was like reading the comments and I was like, this is not it. I need to say something.
Yeah,
So I
but
did.
people on the internet aren't actually who they
They're
are
all
in real
bots.
life.
They're all
Yeah,
bots.
but when we posted
Seriously.
all the Manosphere clips, so many
Yeah.
dumbasses were coming into our
I
comment
know.
section saying, "Why would you even say this? This clip is taken out of context." No shit, the clip is taken out of context. You're going on social media to view a clip. We're not going to tell you the whole thing. Go
Mm,
and watch the whole thing if you're interested, or if you want
mm,
to hear what we're saying and don't agree with it, go and watch the whole video on YouTube. Like, oh,
yeah.
people
I know.
frustrate me.
That was truly the first moment in us doing all this where had a bit of a light bulb moment of, whoa, like this is what it's like to be in social media. Not that we're in it, we're very big noobs at it at the moment. We're beginning stages,
Yeah.
but it's just like the first time I was like, one, people clearly don't give a shit about what they put online and that they forget that it's all tied back to them. And two, people just like jump on something and get so emotionally tied and will
Mm-mm.
die on that hill. There is no compromise, there is no reasoning or bargaining. It is like you can say one word, like you could have this whole great like spiel on something, and you say one word, and they will take that one word and they will run with it. And it was
Mm.
crazy.
Yeah, well, there's so many different pockets of the internet, and I've noticed as we've been doing these different episode topics, each one will hit a different pocket, and some are more positive, neutral, or negative than others. So when we go from a redundancy, which was quite, positive, supportive, to the episode prior, where it was manosphere, toxic masculinity, the difference was insane. And I will
Mm,
say the amount of toxic comments towards you was
mm,
fucking abysmal. Because
mm,
the stuff I was saying, no one commented on. But the
mm,
stuff you were saying, all of these Joe blogs were just
mm.
jumping on and tearing you down. And it just goes to show, like, we were holding up a mirror and they didn't like it. That's what
Yeah.
hit a nerve.
Yeah. Well, that's what was kind of annoying is that it reached the audience that we were trying to talk about rather than reach the audience that we wanted to, like, that we knew backed it and knew that it was wrong. And
Yeah.
obviously didn't take any of that personally because I was like, lol. And I remember showing my partner all of it and he was like, this is just like hilarious. Um, but yeah, it's just crazy how people are. And it was literally because I was a female.
Yeah, unfortunately it was. And I remember
Mm.
one comment that stood out to me was, um, how can you say people in the manosphere aren't like this, like they've got thoughts and feelings themselves, like you don't know what they're going through. It's like, mate, like you're talking shit right now. Like you can't actually defend these people who are on this Louis Theroux Netflix documentary
Yeah.
and saying, oh, boo them. Like they don't give a
Yeah.
shit about you and you're defending them, saying you don't know what they're going through.
Literally,
That's crazy.
literally. And if they're going through something, well, please share it then, babe. Like
Yeah.
this is what we're trying to say is that we're trying to say that you should open up about your emotions and they are accepted and we want to hear it. And anyways.
Yeah, yeah, it's interesting. But one of the other things we were going to talk about in this episode were, moving cities and, some of the things that we've learned because, goes back to what I brought up at the very start of this episode. What is your purpose and finding that purpose? Because for me, if I think back to 2022 when I was planning to move to Brisbane, I thought Brisbane would fill my cup. And it has in a lot of ways, but I almost felt that it would be the cup filler. And once I was
Mhm.
here, everything would be completely fine. And it wasn't until the dust settles that I feel like, oh, maybe there are other bits and pieces that I need to actually work on or identify because the cup maybe isn't as full as I thought.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, interesting. I don't know. I feel like I don't know if I've ever thought about it to that depth. I mean, I think about moving here and it's been 4 years, maybe just under or just over, and I still look at it as every day is completely new and it feels really right to be here. I know my partner and I were talking about would we move anywhere? And I just couldn't think of anywhere else I could feel as though it felt like home or it felt so great and how I've just had a really good experience here. So I
Hmm.
think for me, yeah, it's interesting. I've never actually thought about whether now that I've been here, if it's highlighted filling my cup or anything like that.
Mm. Well, obviously I can't touch on your experience, but like if I touch on mine, like Brisbane does feel like home. I remember when I moved here, you don't know where anything is, right? Like you've got no friends. I remember the
Mm.
first thing we did was we needed to go to a Kmart, and just from being in Canberra, I knew Canberra was associated with sorry, Kmart was associated with Westfields. So I was like, okay, I'm just gonna Google like where the nearest Westfield is instead of Googling where the nearest Kmart was. Like, I don't know, that didn't even come to my mind. And then the nearest Westfield was like 30 minutes away. So like, oh, okay, like let's go to the nearest Westfield. And then that weekend we went to the nearest Woolies, which was 10 minutes away. And where that Woolies was, it had a Kmart. So I was like,
Hmm.
we could have just gone 10 minutes down the road
Yeah, oh my
and found what we
God.
needed instead of driving
Yeah,
30 minutes in a city where we have no idea where anything is. So I
yeah,
feel like those sorts of things were something I took for granted, and now I know where a lot of things are, and like I've settled, and it
yeah.
feels really good. If I feel comfortable here.
Yeah, yeah. I think I agree with the sentiment of feeling comfortable, but what I love is that it's not comfortable where everything is just so mundane. You have a routine and you know where, yeah, like you said, your local Woolies is, maybe your gym, you know how to commute or use public transport here. But what's really nice is being in a bigger city is that there's just so much on, there's so many more people to meet, there's so many
Yeah,
new things to explore and areas to explore that I think even though vastly in the same routine, every day does feel really, really different and exciting. And that's what's so great about being in a city where there's so much more happening. So
yeah,
I love that aspect of it completely.
yeah. Melbourne's such a unique city. It's a very beautiful city. There's so much happening in Melbourne. So
Mm,
yeah, I get
a lot
that.
of
I completely
crime.
get that. Well, yeah, like what the fuck's going on with that?
That's
Dude,
a whole
you got
fucking that.
literal essays running that city. That's crazy.
That's a whole conversation for a completely other another episode, I reckon.
Yeah, fair enough if you don't want to touch into it. I mean, Brisbane's the same. Like, the last state election was built on adult time, adult crime. There were literally these kids
Mm,
breaking into people's homes because the cost of living's so damn high, they got to live somewhere, right?
yeah. I mean, it's just so
Yeah.
sad because there's so all this crime is literally associated with youths. And it's like, what are these
Mm.
parents doing? Like, where are they? And do they know what their kids are doing? Like, there's a difference when back in the day, everyone was like out on the street playing together. So maybe their parents didn't know exactly where they were, but at least they knew they were nearby and doing innocent things. But whereas now it's like, you literally don't know what they could be doing and whether they're doing anything associated with that.
Nah, but one thing I've realized when you see these footage, these kids are losers. If they were acting so tough, take the balaclava off, If you don't, if
Yeah,
you wanna
yeah,
you wanna do this, all right, take the balaclava off. Cowards?
You want to do this? Then do it.
Yeah. Yeah, I've said that when we get our own house, I'm gonna have like a bat under the bed, and if someone comes in, like I'm bringing the bat out. I'm going in
Yeah.
swinging.
Yeah, see, I thought I would be the fight or flight kind of person, but I hear like one noise and then I get instant vertigo and can't move, and I'm like, nah, I'd be too scared to do anything. I've actually had to think of like a plan because I just get terrified, I get paralyzed. So I actually
Oh,
need to think of I've thought of a plan if something happened.
you
I
you
can't reveal it in case it does
you
happen, but
you
yeah.
you would be one of those people that hide under the covers and just magically pretend that it hides you.
Well, I remember this. I remember this time. It was like years ago. There was like that earthquake here, and obviously I didn't know it was an earthquake. It was like the middle of the night, and
Yeah.
so I heard something down. I thought I heard something downstairs. So what did I do? I ran to my bedroom door and just pushed it closed. That's not gonna help anyone. I don't even think I was like leaning against it. I think I just had my hand on it. And I was like, if that was a real
Oh
like
my
life
God.
scenario right there, I'm done. And
Oh
it
my
was a real
God.
eye opening moment for how I would deal with in a crisis.
You know what's funny? If you were a dog, you would be the dog that starts barking at people, and then as soon as they bent down to pat it, you'd like roll over on your stomach.
Yeah, I really would. I really would. I'm a lover, not a fighter.
Yeah, dead set. Dead set. Well, hopefully your partner would be the one there, like protecting because, you gotta have
I'm
you gotta
sure he
have
would.
something. You gotta have something. You gotta have like a bat or something.
I know, I know. Anyways, let's not. Hopefully that doesn't happen.
So I think that's all I'm needing to share today. I'm not sure if you have anything else, but this was a nice, fun, casual chat between us today. I think I really needed it with everything that's been going on, and yeah, just was good to just talk, get some things off my chest about how I've been thinking, feeling,
Hmm.
and have a bit of a laugh at the end. So if you've got nothing to share, do you want to wrap it up for us?
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. I think going back on to the question that you posed at the start on what is your purpose, I think I'd love to hear from the audience and the listener if they've got a purpose they want to share. And also, if you believe in the whole phenomenon on having a purpose, we'd be keen to hear all about that. Obviously, if you found us and listened this far, you found us for a reason. So make sure you follow us down below. As always, real conversations deserve real space. We'll see you in the next one.